So here I am mixing up some greens. I found it very useful to use yellows in the greens to make that lovely sunshiny colour. And I think here I'm going to need some more. I will come back and do the blues of the bluebells in a minute, but I need to get these on the canvas before they dry. So that's my, so this is an emerald green from Golden. This is chromatic green, which I think is a bit dull, which was a mistake. And I'm just going to slap some on in the bake hope it might work. So I'm using a big square brush. I want to start big and then get smaller. So what I'm going to do here is just put some on here, and I'm going to make it a bit darker with some burnt umber so I get a nice dark green. I'm not used to these colours at all. I think I need some blue in them. I don't use acrylics that much, so I'm not used to their colours, but that is pretty sludgy. So I'm going to go back in here. Oh, that's better. So I've got a nice dark green. I want these dark greens just here so I can highlight this lovely glowing tree. So this was dark green, dark blue and burnt umber to get those greens in. And the good thing about painting landscapes is that no one really knows what it looks like. Don't get too bogged down in the detail. Don't try and do every single leaf. What I want to get in this painting is a feeling of the light that's going on here. So I'm just putting a few in there. Some over here, I think. I can see this kind of forest receding into, or rather the woods receding into this nice forest behind. And it's this dark that will give it some light. So I'm trying to work quite quickly with these acrylics because I know they're going to dry. You might want to use a stay wet palette. I don't have a functional one at the moment, but I'm just going to paint really quickly. So I just want to get those darks in there before this paint disappears on me. And I will be mixing up these more as I go along. So there's a nice green over here. You can see I'm just blocking in at the moment. Hopefully it'll all come together at the end. Now, I'm going to try and get the lovely blue of the bluebells so I can block some of those in. I want to have the colours in there so I can compare and contrast. Obviously this is a very bright substrate, so I want to see what the colours look like on that yellow. The reason why I've chosen this yellow is there's this lovely lemony yellow to most of the foliage, and I want that to poke through. And this has been, I've done this painting and it's been one of my most popular prints and cards, and I think it's mainly because of the lemon yellow against the purple, which is all part of colour theory. So I've got a new, hopefully clean brush here, which has just gone green on me. So I'm just using kitchen towel and I've got some water here. So I'm just trying to keep the paint, the water out of the paint so it doesn't get too sloshy, and I want the paint to be opaque. So here I'm going to mix up, so this is French ultramarine and this is something called rose, and I'm going to see what that looks like. It's been on the blue side. If you look at bluebells, you see they're actually on the, they really are quite on the purple end of blue. So that's not bad for a dark bluebell. And I'm going to add a bit of white to that and see what happens. Bluebell colour, not quite. A bit more French ultramarine, I think. A bit more of the, I think this is rose. This is what's called rose. Well, that's not bad. So I'm just going to slap a bit of that on. And I realise with acrylics what I can do is actually add quite a lot of detail on top. So I can actually paint through where those trees are. Once the paint is dry, I'm just going to drag some of the lighter colour through here, and I'm really not thinking about the detail yet. So I'm just blocking it in, more or less like house painting, and I've run out of colour. So I've just got to mix up some more. So that was French ultramarine and this rose colour. I might cheat a bit and actually use this purple that I've got, which works very well. Whoa, that's a posh colour. This is a posh acrylic. I found with acrylics, and this applies to everything really, get the nicest you can afford, because the cheaper ones, they don't do what you want them to do. Oh, that's a bit better. That purple's working well. But as a general rule of thumb, how to make a good purple depending on the colours you've got, I notice acrylic colours are quite different sometimes, is to use a crimson, a deep red, deep cool red like an Elysian crimson, and French ultramarine. Sorry, that's my door slamming. Upstairs in my loft. So I'm just going in here. I want to see what that looks like, how that contrasts to the other colours here. I'm just going to add a bit more white to that to get the lighter colour of the bluebells. So I'm just adding a bit more white. I'm going to be putting some on here. This paint is wet at the moment, so you will get